Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Aravaipa Rides podcast. I'm race director Aaron Schmidt, and I have with me today Jen Clark, who's the coordinator of our local GRIT chapter, part of the NICA group. Jen, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
And absolutely, thanks for coming. And tell us a little bit more about you specifically, and then we'll go a little bit into GRIT itself. So how did you get into the sport?
Many years ago, my then boyfriend, now husband,
Sure.
Back in the mid-'90s, we started mountain biking together. What is now Pima and Dynamite up Browns Ranch area.
Yeah.
That's where I got my starts.
Okay, very nice.
And then we moved to Colorado. I was in graduate school up there and did some riding, but then, life kind of got in the way and
of course,
kind of put that on the back table until we had kids and they started getting into mountain biking. So it kind of got the whole family back into it about 10 years ago.
Excellent. I imagine, you didn't mention what part of Colorado, but Colorado being as rocky as, or not rocky, but mountainy as it is, Browns Ranch in Colorado, very different.
It was a tough learning curve.
Okay.
So it's basically straight up and straight down. That's what I get to do every ride. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So get you in shape fast.
How much time did you have on the bike before you started riding in Colorado?
Probably about 2 years.
Okay.
So I wasn't super new to it.
Sure.
But also got pretty still demoralized. we were in the Denver area.
Okay.
But yeah. So,
lots of elevation real quick.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Loved it, but it was definitely a different level.
Okay. Was it you or your husband, boyfriend at the time, who got into it? Was one of you already into it?
He was.
He was.
He actually.
So he dragged you in.
Yes. Yeah. He used to do all the MBAA races way back then when he was in high school, and then we met at the end of high school, and he said, "This is just what I do. So why don't you join me?" I'm like, "Sure, let's do it."
Very nice. And you still ride?
Yep.
How often?
I try to get out some form of riding at least 5 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
and that's for yourself too, not just the coaching and other stuff that you do?
Once coaching comes, my personal time takes a little bit of a backseat, and we'll do more stuff on the bike with the team. But,
okay.
Yeah, but still.
What's your preferred type of riding these days?
Ooh, that's tough. I don't know. People always ask me, what's your favorite bike? I'm like, it's the one that I'm on. So I was I love mountain biking. I have a road bike. I'll road bike if I just want to get some quick miles in.
Okay.
I've been dabbling in enduro riding in the last year.
Fun.
My daughter and son have gotten into it. And so try it. So
I'm
going to give that a try this year. So just pretty much anything.
Okay. So the MBAA races, you'll try those enduro ones?
We're going to see how the first one goes. And then it's definitely different, way different than anything. I've always done cross country. So this is different.
Very cool.
I'm enjoying the challenge.
That's great. No, it's great taking a step into something a little different on a familiar apparatus, but a totally different
totally
aspect
different,
to it, right?
Format.
So you mentioned the kids.
Yes.
And you were telling me off camera here, older son and younger daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Just remind me their ages, kind of where they're at.
They're 17 and 16.
Okay.
Senior in high school is my son, and junior is my daughter.
Okay. And they've been riding since Strider bikes, or?
Pretty much, yeah. They got on bikes pretty young. It's my son started actual racing when he was 8. My daughter when she was 7.
Okay.
And they've never stopped.
Okay. And do they prefer? Are they enduro as well, or?
They have kind of come along the same journey, a little faster than me, but yeah, they were always cross country. They both still do cross country.
Okay.
My son he loves enduro. That's his favorite, and my daughter, she couldn't pick if she wanted to. She loves both, so she does both.
Very nice.
Pretty
Very
equally.
Nice. And racing too. Obviously, you said not just going out for the fun rides.
Yep.
Awesome. So you're the coordinator of GRIT.
I am.
And is it chapter? How do we phrase the?
So the way that NICA works, and NICA started back in 2009, and they have, I guess if you can think of it like a franchise.
Okay.
And it's now in 31 states that have a league.
Yep.
And each league is kind of its own, it's part of NICA, but we have the freedom to kind of create and make it our own.
Okay.
NICA has founded multiple different programming, GRIT being one of them.
Sure.
And so yes, we do have I guess you could call it a chapter of Arizona GRIT.
Okay.
Here in the state that we started up last year.
Very nice. And you've been the coordinator since day one of it.
Yeah.
Part of the initial. That's where we met at one of the races.
Yes.
Maybe about a year ago now, maybe not quite a year. And you were telling me about that. And then, of course, the organization was just getting started. It was one of their first races here in Arizona, so that was pretty cool too. What made you want to get into that kind of organization? What made you take that step?
I've always enjoyed working with kids. back in 2015, my husband and I started just a little development kids mountain biking team.
Okay.
And so I've been working with kids ever since. And it was really just trying to get families together to ride. And
Sure.
Kids, I've always found ride so much better, and they have so much more fun when they have other kids. It's not just mom and dad taking them out. That gets boring.
Yep.
And so we wanted to kind of create that community for kids and families, so parents can find other people to ride with, the kids can have kids to ride with.
Sure.
Kind of turned into a racing team. And just with my daughter being there and me riding, we got a pretty decent female following. So that was kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
And so when this opportunity came along, I was like, well, let's see if we can expand that and grow that and
Okay.
try to get some more girls to come on board.
Excellent. Were you part of, I guess, the initial, the NICA chapter growing here?
Yes.
And so you realized that they had this GRIT, which stands for Girls Riding Together, by the way, which we haven't said yet.
Yes.
So you realized, was that an after the fact that you realized they had this special program for girls only, or did you know that going into it?
I knew it going into it.
Okay.
And was, we were kind of asked fairly early on in the development of the Arizona League here to come and help in whatever we can. I'm like, well, that seems like right up my alley. So
Right.
I kind of jumped on that opportunity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us, now that we've introduced the actual name and what it stands for, so what is GRIT? Tell us about it.
It is, NICA recognized that it's a male-dominated sport. It was about 20% female, 80% male, and we're just
Okay.
trying to close that gap a little bit.
Okay.
And just try to create opportunities that are maybe more female-centric, because girls approach mountain biking, pretty much everything, different than what a guy would.
Right.
And trying to create those opportunities that it would be more comfortable for girls to come out and ride.
Okay.
Trying to keep it low-key, like the no drop rides, group rides, fun, hanging out, getting to know
Sure.
other girls, so that when you come to the races, it's not intimidating. It's like, oh, I've ridden with you a few times. It's,
Right.
catch up, hang out.
Yep.
We have a tent set up at all the races, usually with some activities. So
Okay.
the girls can kind of come hang out there. We always end up attracting a lot of the siblings that aren't NICA age yet, and they come and hang out. So it's just kind of a cool atmosphere, and just
Very
gives
cool.
them a place to go and just familiar faces.
Excellent. And what is the NICA age? What's the...
6th grade through 12th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you see a lot of, now that the girls coming into the league as well, are they the siblings of older boys who've come in, or do you find a lot of girls being the initiators in their family of wanting to
Probably
step?
a combination of both.
Okay.
There's definitely some that are this is the first in the family that are mountain biking. They're
Okay.
girls, so yeah,
Excellent.
It's kind of cool.
Yep. Brought in by friends probably, or
Yep,
I don't know.
friends and just having like teams at their high schools or middle
Okay,
schools.
sure.
So they're kind of getting exposed to it, and
Yeah.
some of them I had no idea this existed, and they try it, and it's crazy watching the ones that they've never ridden bikes before, and then by the end of the season they're just crushing it out there. So it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah, I think it must be tough, and I think even in this day, it still must be tough to get out of the standard sports.
Yes.
When you're in school, I know middle schools now offer certainly a lot more than when I went to middle school in terms of sports. But the big three, the big four, wherever you want to call them. Soccer in there as well, other sports, but it's always the stick and ball sports.
Yep.
Not so much the riding a bike, or even like running clubs seem to be smaller, fewer, I should say, in between other things. So to get kids of any gender into something that's not baseball or basketball or football must be kind of tough.
Yes.
I imagine too, coming as an outside, you're not a we can talk about your team and your coaching and stuff like that too. But coming from outside, being outside of scholastic sports, it must be a little bit tougher too to do that recruiting, I guess you might say.
It is hard trying to find that in somewhere.
Yeah.
If they don't have a school or if they haven't been exposed to it.
Yep.
It's like, how do you find the girls to bring? It's like, I know once they recognize that it's there, they're going to love it.
Sure.
But it's trying to find,
Yeah.
it's challenging. It's for sure challenging.
Well, we'll talk more offline about this part of it, but certainly whatever we can do to help out too. Certainly want to give you whatever hands, absolutely. But tell me more then. So, what does GRIT then offer the girls? The girls come in, they sign the paper, they're part of the club. What happens next?
It's anyone that joins the league is the opportunities to participate in the programming is open to everybody.
Okay.
So for the girls, we have group rides that we'll do periodically, primarily in the preseason, so that once we get in season, it just gets really busy.
Sure.
There's not as many opportunities, but the whole point is just to try to create communities within the clubs. So if you have 3 or 4 teams that are geographically close to one another, trying to get them grouped together, like, hey, let's have joint practices with maybe just the girls.
Gotcha.
But we do offer group rides to kind of create that initial get to know you.
Yeah.
We're going to have an event coming up on October the 21st that's a group ride for new beginners, like first time in the league or first time riding a mountain bike.
Okay.
So we'll have that no drop fun ride.
Fun.
We always have some sort of activity going on race day out at our grit tent.
Sure.
We did a bunch of different crafts and activities last year.
Nice.
Cheering signs and all sorts of fun stuff that we did.
Right.
So, and then our goal is down the road, we really want to kind of envision having either a day camp or even like a summer style camp that we can do more skills practices, things like that. So
absolutely.
So that's sort of where we're at and kind of where we want to head.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what's the reception so far? You've been this chapter, this league has been around for about a year now. So you've got a year's worth of feedback. How are the girls taking to it? Are you seeing an uptick in some of the sign-ups and stuff?
So far, yeah, I think it's been pretty good. There's been a lot of positive feedback.
Okay.
I think the girls like that they have something that's just for them, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
And we also started this year a leadership group with some of the riders, half of which are girls. So they're going to be helping out with a lot of the programming and stuff like that. So we'll have some of the girls that went through it all last year, and they can kind of help guide the new group coming in this year. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah,
it's exciting for sure.
Is there sort of a graduate level program for girls who start to age out? Can they come back and coach?
Yes.
Do you do any kind of keep to kind of retain them? And
really encourage. And we've had some that have done, high school league and stuff, racing in the past that have come back to coach, and we love that. Absolutely love. Because I think that there's just something so valuable. They've just gone through it. They know these kids. They know how they're feeling. They know how to reach them.
Yeah.
And having them come back and be a part of the teams is it's priceless. It's really gold.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So your daughter's in the program.
She is.
And how does she like it?
She loves it.
Yeah.
She. As I think any girl that's been in cycling for any length of time, she's always just been, I was like, I'll ride with the boys because there's not a lot of girls.
Right.
And so as more and more girls have come into the sport, I mean, she lights up. She really does. To have friends that cycle and having whole teams that have, like tons of girls on their team. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
She loves it. So that's kind of the whole goal, is just try to get more girls in, because you bring in a few and then you bring in a few more and then word gets out and it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, sort of the second half of only been around a year, it's probably hard to gauge what they're getting out of it once they leave the program, right? We'll have to bring you back in a couple of years and we'll ask you that question.
For sure.
I'm sure you have conversations, though, with other coordinators around the country, other leagues and stuff like that, people who've been around a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Have you asked that? Have you gotten feedback on?
They do. We have a monthly call that we do, and it's just a lot of back and forth about what things have worked, what hasn't, different strategies of how to recruit, things like that. And some of the leagues that have been around for a long time, they've had a lot of success.
Okay.
There are leagues that will have overnight, like 2-3 night camps that they do for some of the girls during the summer and off season and things like that. So there's definitely the potential there. I think really the sky's the limit.
Great. Are they seeing what they're setting out to do, and that the retention rates of women now as they become women?
Yes.
Outside, they're no longer girls, as they're hitting like 16, 17, 18, into college and beyond. Are they staying with the sport? Are they, finding their boyfriend the next time they meet and taking them out to Brown's Ranch?
Right. I think there is a lot of that.
Good.
I've come across so many women recently that they've just sort of found the sport either through school or just being out on the trails and be like, what's going on here? And then they just try it out. And just a good friend of my daughter, she just went off to college and is going to be racing collegiate next year. So
excellent.
And we were talking to some of the collegiate coaches, and they have definitely seen an uptick. And I do credit NICA for a lot of that, getting these girls involved early and then kind of carrying them through high school, and then having that be the opportunity that the basketball and football players and the baseball players had. That
Right.
it's just a different avenue.
Right.
For,
Yep. Just
for
a different way
athletics.
of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Kind of taking a step kind of around the back here. What's the barrier of entry for a young girl who finds that their best friend is on this in this group doing this cool thing? They want to do it. They bring mom and dad to an event maybe to see it. How did they get started?
It's getting easier and easier. Our league just got a whole fleet of bikes from Trek. So if they don't have a bike and they want to come out to one of our try it out events, they don't need a bike.
That's awesome.
Because it's hard. As a parent, you say, okay, so I have to spend how much to get a bike to get even just to see if you're going to like the sport. So this gives the opportunity. So I think the barrier entry is definitely going to be a lot lower for us this year because kids can try it out. They can see this is horrifying. I never want to come back.
Right.
Or the more likely response that we see more often is this was the most fun I've had in a long time.
Yep.
And so that I think that alleviates the parents' fears about putting a lot of money down on a bike, helmets, all that. I mean, we have a lot of equipment available now that we can offer, and even some rentals that would be available, through the season if that's
great.
a possibility. But that's probably the biggest barrier is just the cost to get started into the sport. It is high.
It is
once you start purchasing equipment. So.
Right. And there's as the parent's dilemma is, how long is Sally going to stay in it?
Yeah.
Do we go super high end, mid end, just low end? Let's just get her on a bike that's not, a 10 speed or something to that effect that can ride on these trails.
Yeah.
I can certainly see that as a parent myself.
Yeah.
Where that there's that question of like where is it going to go and how long is it going to go for and
Absolutely.
and all that. The try it out events, is it just sort of a one-time thing? You get to ride it and then that's really it, to try it out and then you make a decision, or is there like a loan process where you can keep the bike for a few
think
weeks?
this is all it's the loaner bikes we just got. So I think they're trying to figure out what the need is and what we can do to keep those in circulation through the season.
Yep.
But for now we're offering them. If you don't have a bike, come out and try it and then kind of go from there. NICA as a national league does have a lot of relationships within the industry. So we get, especially with Trek is one of the big ones.
Okay.
They offer great discounts for kids that are part of the league.
That's great.
On full build bikes and everything from bikes all the way down. So,
that's excellent.
And there's a lot of shops throughout the valley that will help kids get on those bikes and get those discounts and make the most of it. And so I think that there is that barrier, but then there's a lot of ways to kind of overcome that.
Yep. Excellent. You've got the two kids yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Before NICA, they were on scholastic teams, or did they have a team that they were participating with, or was it just?
Primarily, they've always raced for the team that my husband and I started. A few years ago.
Okay.
And then more recently, with the addition of the enduro team, they got asked to be on a team that. Oh. It's kind of a weird. It's like the first time they've been on a team where we haven't been.
Mom and dad weren't
haven't been the coaches of it, which has been really awesome. It's been a good experience for everybody. So it's kind of cool. But they raced for our team. And then last year we started a high school team at their high school at Valley Christian High School.
Very cool.
And that it started small. We already have a ton of interest for the year, so I can see that growing, which is pretty exciting.
Very nice. And you're coaching that one as well?
I'm going to coach that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your husband?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
We're both doing that one.
Very good. Tell me about your team, though. You started a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do? How did you get it? How did you decide to? We're just going to form a team.
Yeah. It was kind of like a random thing. So we had these two little kids that just started riding. My son was 9 at the time. My daughter was 7.
Okay.
She showed up to the McDowell race. We went to pre-ride. My son wanted to do the race, and she asked, "Can girls ride too? Do they?" I think her exact words: "Do they allow girls to race too?" I'm like,
"Oh no."
Yes. So, like,
and
sure.
that, folks, is why we're here today.
Right. And so we signed her up, and she went out and did the race and got hooked immediately.
Great.
Has been racing ever since. But then it was, we need to find some other kids for them, so we started this team. Dynamic Steve-O is the name of the team.
Okay.
And it was kind of open. We've had kids as young as 5 all the way up to, high school and beyond that still come back and still hang out with the team.
That's great.
And it was really just started out as a group ride on Wednesdays, which we still do every Wednesday on South Mountain in the evenings.
Yeah, I've seen you.
Yeah, we're out there.
It's hard to miss your jerseys.
Right, we're very bright. That was by design, so we didn't lose kids in the desert. But yeah.
Smart.
Right.
I thought you just like neon.
We want to be seen and to be able to see.
Right.
And then it just grew into a lot of the kids were like, well, we'd like to try racing too. And so we started just we've done cyclocross, we've dabbled a little bit in road racing, but mostly mountain biking. It's kind of been the predominant thing that we've done over the years.
That's awesome.
And so they've raced with Dynamics, and we have a composite team for NICA for those kids that don't have a high school team.
Okay.
We'll run that team as well to get more kids that.
That's fantastic.
You can race independent with NICA, but it's just more fun to be on a team. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Collect all those ones that don't have a high school team yet.
Right. And somehow you find actually family and work in all of this, right? In all this mountain biking.
Yeah. We kind of try to squeeze that in there somewhere.
Something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness. All right. Let's see. So back to grit, getting those girls on bike.
Yeah.
What is so this is this again kind of goes back to that first year thing. You guys are kind of getting your legs under you now.
Yep.
You have this support though of the national program of all these other coordinators that are different leagues and stuff like that. What do you still reach out for? What do you find that you want to do with this league, with this chapter, and what do you still kind of look for support from some of these other coordinators or from the national group?
Probably the biggest thing is just recruiting more girls, but recruiting more moms and how to get them to come in and be a part of the program. Whether it be coaches or just hands. We just need hands on deck. And that's the biggest thing because we're an all volunteer league.
Sure.
And just getting more people involved to kind of spread the work out a little bit.
Right.
And especially with grit, having moms involved, it's just, I guess the comfort level is just a little bit higher for more girls coming in. So, if they go out there and they see moms out riding, it's like, well, if my mom can ride a bike, I can do it too. So it's a little less intimidating, I think.
So you got to get the moms on the bike
Need
first.
to get the moms. We need to start getting the moms to come out and help out.
So we need WRIT, whatever, however we can say that, like more women on bike.
That's right.
Maybe just moms. We'll just get more moms on bikes, and then we can get the daughters into grit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's now we're adding more into the pipeline.
Yes. And even the moms that don't necessarily want to ride.
Sure.
There's like being just out at the venue and helping out at the grit tent and things like that is always, it's so welcome and appreciated.
I've been through many organizations, whether it's sports or school or whatever, where, if you don't have the support of the parents, it's a lot for the coach to take care of on their own.
For sure.
For sure. Awesome. And how can folks who are maybe interested, it's a girl who comes home and says, my best friend is riding. Mom, take me to this event, please. I want to check it out. Or maybe mom sees this podcast, or runs into another mom at a mom's event and finds out that their daughter is doing it. How can they come find you?
The best, all of our information is on our website. It has which is ArizonaMTB.org.
Very good.
And it has all of our, has links to all of the events that are coming up. Registration for the actual leagues opens up in mid-October. October 16th, I believe, is the first day for registration. So that's coming up pretty soon. Yeah. Or you can email me directly at jclark@ArizonaMTB.org.
Okay.
Or .com. Yeah, .org. I just said, I'm having a brain slide there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Awesome. And talk about so you've got events. So you've got the season starts in January. Goes until about May.
Actually, mid-March. Yeah, we're trying to condense to make our season fit within the school, all the other sports winter season, because what we have found last year, especially on our team, is that the kids at Valley Christian High School, they love being involved in all the sports, and so when they see one that spans 2 sports season, it's like, Gotcha. So we're trying to just stay within the winter season. Okay. So first race is mid-January, and the last one is March 16th. So right after, as spring break's wrapping up, our season's wrapping up. And
will it be fewer events than this year then?
Same number of events. Actually, I think we're adding a race. Potentially, but
so more events
to be determined.
But
yes, but we're trying to have them just a little closer together. We had a bit of a break in the season last year. And we're just trying to keep everything a little closer this year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So prior to the season starting and registration starting in October, do you have anything for the current members between now and say October, the registration for new?
Not so much unless they want to come out to some of our try it out events.
So that is an event.
Yeah.
So that counts.
Yeah, they can come out too.
Okay.
And actually, I would encourage the current riders or riders that have some experience coming out, because it's always fun to have experienced riders mixed in with the new ones to help teach and learn. It's easier to learn from a peer, I think.
Okay. When do you have those events set up?
There are some, and I don't have the exact dates. We just had one last weekend. I believe there's one coming up this coming weekend.
Okay.
And then I know for sure the one October 21st is kind of like for the all females.
Okay.
That'll be happening kind of mid-afternoon.
Okay.
But like all that will be on our website under our events.
Sure, and we can add it later too to this. We can put a slide in for you. And then, and you do them around the valley, different places. You're trying to, obviously trying to
kind of scatter them around to different places. I believe the one on October 21st that I'll be leading out will be over near South Mountain.
Okay, it's
kind of the tentative plan right now. So
very good.
Yeah.
And what does one of these look like? So you're attracting someone who probably hasn't been on a bike much more than your average kid's bike at this point. Obviously, you don't want to make it too gnarly for them.
Definitely not.
Nothing too rocky.
Yeah.
South Mountain's not known for that actually, so it's a great spot to pick, I guess. But so what does that day look like for the kids to come out?
So we had some last year where we had just some group rides, and we would start at Western Star Park and kind of make our way through the neighborhood onto some of the easier, like the Bronco Trail.
Sure.
Make our way up pretty much all green trails.
Yeah.
And we are always no drops. We stop, regroup frequently.
Yep.
And then any spots that anybody's having, my best advice is if you're not sure, either get off your bike and check it out or walk it. And so, I mean, that's kind of how we run those beginner rides. It's we're not there to go like hurling our bikes off of cliffs or anything. It's just this is mountain biking, and yes, you can do it.
Yeah.
And it is fun.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So after October, you'll start registering people in. It might be too early for actual dates and even events, but do you have like a warm up to the season, actual, I guess you could say, training days, practice days, that kind of thing?
So for the school teams, we kind of leave that up to the individual teams, individual school teams. And regular or preseason practices start in November. And typically for most of the teams, that's just, we have like a kind of like a skills 10 skills that we have all the teams, we like to have them run through at the beginning of the season.
Sure.
We'll have a training for that. We have our coaches retreat coming up in November.
Okay.
We kind of train on how to teach those. We teach the coaches how to teach the kids to do those trainings. And the way our team runs, I like to split it up into like 3 different weeks where we do about 3 to 4 skills per week.
Okay.
And then so that by the time we get to regular season practices in December, everyone's kind of trail safe, trail ready, and we can start get the fitness going and start getting those skills honed in on the trails. So.
Excellent. I'm glad you mentioned it because I thought of it a while back and I was trying to figure out how to like segue it in, talking about getting more kids in and more moms and just hands-on. I presume that also extends to coaches, actual coaches, not just hands-on, but someone who can actually take a group, whether it's the girls or the boys in the NICA full group, and teach them a skill. Is that something that you actively, not you necessarily, but as the organization, are you actively recruiting coaches, or are you looking more for the parents to step up and want to be more interested in it, or anyone from the outside?
All of the above. And we've reached out over the off season to just a number of schools that haven't been involved in cycling yet, trying to show them. We've tried to reach out to some other just people that we know within cycling that's like, hey, why don't you come either start a team or coach? We have a lot of support for anyone that's, and I use that term coaching loosely because I was using that term last year when we were starting our team and parents were like, oh, I'm not a coach.
Right.
It's like, no, it's really just, can you ride a bike? And then just come out. We need people that sweep. We need people that are willing to lead rides.
Yeah.
And we have trainings on through NICA for all of those levels. So if you just want to come out and you just want to sweep and help keep kids safe and make sure no one's getting left behind, it's very easy. It's, go through a background check and go online, do a few classes, maybe concussion protocols, kind of the big one.
Of course. Makes sense.
And then from there, it kind of ramps up if you want to be more of a leader or like a head coach, getting some first aid, CPR, those kind of trainings.
Sure.
And all with because we want to keep the kids safe and and have everyone all on the same page of.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And same thing, website, they can get all the information from there,
Yes.
or show up to one of these events as they come up as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if there's much else. What else about grit can you tell us that if someone's watching this podcast because their daughter mentioned it to them, and so they're now researching, right? They're searching online.
Yep.
I don't know anything about mountain biking. Daughter's interested. What else can you tell these parents who don't know mountain biking themselves? They're not riders. To get them, I guess, maybe take any of the anxiety away from sending their daughter down a mountain.
Yes.
What can you tell them? How can you get them to make that second step, which is after the internet search, they actually get in the car and go to an event?
I would just say just to take that leap and come out and try it.
Okay.
And this was probably the biggest eye opener. You've been in mountain biking, certainly you don't think about these things, but
Right.
when we were starting the team last year, we went and spoke with the administrator,
Yep.
and he's thinking Red Bull Rampage. He's like, I don't think this is a good thing for the school.
Sure.
I'm like, that's not what we do.
Right.
And so, depending on your exposure to mountain biking, that's what some people think, or you watch television and you see these crazy, World Cup events and things like
Yep.
that. The courses and the practice routes that we do are all very doable, and we split things up based on abilities. So we have some
Sure.
kids that are really advanced. We have a group for them. We have some kids that are just coming out. We're not going to send you with those kids.
Right.
You will be safe and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
We had a kid last year that was just getting started in mountain biking and could only ride a mile and a half to start, and by the end of the season was racing the full races. And so
Okay.
you can come along pretty quickly.
Sure.
And we don't emphasize racing. We don't emphasize competition. It's about learning how to ride a bike. It's
Yeah.
about meeting other people, creating or developing those skills to have a sport that you can literally do for the rest of your life. And that's probably the biggest thing, is that, if you sign up for soccer or basketball, or you're dependent on other groups, other people, once
Sure.
you leave high school or college, if you do it at the college level, it's hard past that.
Right.
To find your group, because it's just, they oftentimes don't exist.
Right.
Whereas in mountain biking, I mean, you go out to the trailhead and you'll make 10 friends on day one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
if you don't see them at the trailhead, you're going to run into them.
you're
going to
run it, especially on something like South Mountain.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's so busy. But that's why I've always loved it. That's why I think it's great.
Okay.
And for the girls out there, they're going to gain so much confidence, because they're going to have something that they think is completely not doable. It's going to be too hard. They're going to realize, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get good at it pretty fast.
Right.
And it's just, the sky's the limit. Their confidence is going to soar. I saw it with my own daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, she went from doing sport loops out at McDowell in 50 minutes to being one of, like a top end racer, and just watching her develop over the years has been pretty cool. So from a mom with a daughter, you can do it, and it is a safe sport.
Excellent. To leave today, any last parting words, anything that you'd want to say about the grit or yourself? Or
Probably just, if you have any questions, just drop me a line, or drop anybody in the league a line.
Okay.
You can give me a call. Any way
Sure.
I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. I know it's a big. It seems like this overwhelming thing to get into mountain biking, but it's not. And it's definitely, we have enough resources now as a league that we can help. So even if you think you can't do it, just give us a call and we'll see what we can work out. And odds are pretty good that we can get something going for you. Absolutely.
Right. And we'll be sure to put all that info at the end of this podcast, so we'll put if it's all right with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Put
please
that
do.
name and
Please
number
do.
and whatnot up
Yeah.
there. If anybody is interested, Grit or NICA, boys and girls. But Grit, if you do have a daughter who's interested in doing something with other girls her age and older, step out maybe of their comfort zone a little bit.
Yes.
But make some great friends along the way doing it. So, again, for anyone who's interested, check them out. We'll put this stuff up at the end of the podcast so that you can check out specifically to Arizona. If you're catching this from somewhere outside Arizona, you can find a local league.
Yeah.
There are 31 states.
31 states have a league.
Pretty close. Pretty good bet that your state has one as well. Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We are inviting the Grit girls out to our Soirée, which is the women's mountain biking race in November at Usery Regional Park here in Mesa, Arizona. In fact, we sort of named the juniors race after you. Wasn't sure about the copyright laws, so we're just calling it the Gritty Girls race.
I like it.
So we've got Gritty Girls. There's a younger and older age group, and then it'll be a 20 mile and a 10 mile depending on that age group. So hoping to get a few girls from your organization, as well as just girls in general who are riding out here to that. And of course, boys and girls are invited to Tonto Mountain, which is the same day, the same place, same park, November 12th of this year. So thank you again for tuning in. This was the Aravaipa Rides podcast. This is Jen Clark, coordinator of Arizona Grit. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.